Welcome to Sassy, Soulful, and Sensitive, a podcast for us introverts, empaths, and highly sensitive people. I'm your host, Cam Nichols, and together we're going to explore the strengths and struggles that come along with our sensitivity and learn how to trust our intuition and trust our voice. Let's dive in. What's up, Buttercups? Today's episode was inspired by some coaching sessions I had with a few clients this past couple weeks and a quote from a TV show that I'm currently watching. So what is it that we are going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about embracing our self-worth. Just embracing our worth as a whole. It can be scary. So especially as a grown-ass adult, to wake up and realize that you've based your worth on how others perceive you. Whether that's your parents, your colleagues, your spouse, your friends, it does not matter. It's other people. And I've been doing a lot of coaching with people on their relationships, and more particularly, the relationships between adult children and their parents. And for these clients, there's been tension when our parents' actions don't reflect the love, compassion, or loyalty that we believe we deserve in exactly the way we believe that they should. And then we tend to make it mean that we are not lovable, we are not worthy of the kind of relationship we want with them. We are somehow in a deficit. So then the question comes out of like, okay, why do I feel like others don't see or appreciate my true self? And honestly, this is such a common experience for us as highly sensitive people to feel misunderstood or overlooked. And this is where the quote comes in from the show that I'm watching. It's on Netflix. It's called The Dragon Prince. And it beautifully states, "My star was never hidden just because other people couldn't see it. I always knew who I was." So that's from season 6, episode 5. It's such a great show. It's a great cartoon animated series for kids and adults alike. It's beautiful. But the sentiment encapsulates a crucial truth. Your worth is not determined by others' perceptions. Like, there are several reasons why others might not be able to recognize your unique qualities. They might have different perspectives, right? Not everyone possesses or processes the world as deeply as we do, which that can lead to misunderstandings. Another one is societal or social expectations. Many people value traits that might not align with our HSP characteristics, such as quick decision-making or constant social engagement, right? Those are not something that are always like natural to us HSPs, but it is something that they, as a whole, tend to value. Third one is self-protection. HSPs, we often hide our sensitivity to avoid feeling overwhelmed, right? Raise your hand. We're all guilty. Let's be honest. And that can just make it harder for others to kind of see our true selves because there is some self-protection on our part going on. And then the fourth is just lack of understanding. Like, many people aren't familiar with high sensitivity as a trait, and they may misinterpret, and often do misinterpret, our HSP behaviors, our quirks. And sometimes people can't see through clear lenses. They can only see through their tinted view, just like sunglasses, right? Like, this has to do with them and their capacity, not you and yours. And it's definitely not a reflection of your worth. So then the question comes up, well, am I still worthy and lovable even if others don't see it? Absolutely and unequivocally, yes. 100%. Like, your worth and lovability are absolutely inherent. They exist independently of anyone else's ability to recognize or acknowledge your beauty, your amazingness, your magicalness, whatever you want to call it. Like, this is kind of that fundamental truth that's easy to forget in a world that often equates visibility and accomplishment with value. Like, we spend so much time worrying about what other people think and how we are being perceived. Like, as HSPs, we may be particularly prone to this worry due to our heightened awareness and our deep capacity for empathy. However, it's crucial to understand and crucial to remember that others' perceptions, they do not define us. We get to define ourselves, right? Your sensitivity, your depth of feeling, your rich inner world, like these are all parts of what makes you uniquely you. You are valuable and worthy of love, regardless of whether every person or any person you encounter can see or appreciate these characteristics or any others that you just naturally have. So how can we keep our sense of worth when others don't seem to see it? And maintaining our sense of self-worth in the face of misunderstanding or lack of appreciation, like it can be challenging. Like I don't want to dismiss that, right? But it's a vital skill to develop as we kind of work on our personal development and work on navigating the world in the ways that we do. So here are some strategies that I've come up with that I think can really help you stay in that recognition of your own worth. So first is self-validation. So practice affirming your own worth. Like remind yourself daily of your positive qualities and the value you bring to the world. And make it so simple, and like if you're like me and your depth just kind of wants to consume you, make it so shallow, and that's totally okay. So an example of that would be like, because when I'm like, oh, I need to remind myself of my value that I bring to the world, my depressed brain is going to be like, oh, well, F that, you don't bring any value to the world. It's like, no, I do. Like, my clients tell me I help them. My husband appreciates me. And to be honest, I can love myself when I'm just sitting and watching TV without all the noise. Right? Let it be shallow. So second is seek understanding, not approval. So instead of trying to make everyone like or understand you, focus on connecting with those who do appreciate you for who you are. Third is reframe rejection. Like when someone doesn't seem to value you, remember that this is more about their perception than it is about your worth. This has to do with them and their capacity, not yours. Cultivate self-awareness. Get to know yourself deeply. Like the more you understand and appreciate your own qualities, the less you will crave others' validation, which we're going to get to that in a second, because having external validation is normal and okay and valid, right? But number 5, challenge that negative self-talk. When you catch yourself internalizing others' lack of appreciation, like be very intentional and consciously replace those thoughts with affirming ones. Like challenge how it's not true. Fact versus story here. Look for the facts, not the story. So why is it important to recognize our own worth? Because like it helps with our emotional resilience. Like when you have a strong sense of self-worth, like you're better equipped to handle criticism or that lack of recognition from others, which just naturally happens. It helps us live more authentically because understanding our value allows us to live in ourself. It allows us to live embodied lives, making choices that align with our true self and our true values, rather than always trying to please others all the time or anticipate their needs or their reactions or their perceptions, right? That kind of thinking shuts us down. But when we are embodied and living authentically, y'all, that shit is so delicious. So another way that this kind of helps us is it helps in healthy relationships, because when we value ourselves, we are more likely to form relationships with people who appreciate us for us, which then gives us permission to appreciate them for them, right? There's kind of that naturally reciprocal beauty of a healthy relationship. We don't have to try to change each other. We just get to appreciate the things that we do and just love on the other person and be loved by the other person. So another one is just our personal growth and recognizing that our worth doesn't mean ignoring areas for improvement, right? Like our personal growth and personal development, because we can hype ourselves up to be like this most amazing magical person, and we're still going to be flawed because we're still human, right? This is often the part that I work with my clients with on the most, is just accepting their humanness. Because if we are recognizing our worth without ignoring the areas we need to improve, like, it provides that stable foundation from which we can actually grow and evolve and set goals and accomplish and do the things that we do want to do. But it's not for other people, it's for ourselves. And the toll that accepting our humanness has on our mental health, like, that strong sense of self-worth is so compassionate towards anxiety and depression and other, like, these other thought patterns that kind of come up when we're not in our favorite version of ourselves, right? And because of our depth of processing and emotional capacity, like, we do kind of have like this deeper, darker side that can affect our mental health. Like, this, like, studies have shown that we are prone to more lackluster, for lack of a better word, right? And so it's like, yeah, recognizing our own worth and recognizing like our humanness and accepting that with compassion, like, that absolutely plays into our mental health. And so when we slow down and when we take care of ourselves, and I mean like get really, really honest and intimate with ourselves and get in tune with our needs and our wants and our desires, and we're honest about that with ourselves, like, we come to the realization that we know who we are. We just kind of forgot, right? We kind of know ourselves at a core, and that involves this idea that we're allowed to change and we're allowed to grow. And like, that's just part of who we are, and that's okay. And we just forget it sometimes. So let's talk about how we can embrace our sensitivity as a strength, because like, your sensitivity is not a flaw to overcome. And I know it can seem that way, but like, our sensitivity is a strength to be harnessed. So here are some ways to kind of work through in embracing that. So reframing your narrative, right? Instead of seeing sensitivity of the weakness, recognize it as a source of depth, empathy, and insight. There's so much like goodness that comes from just accepting these pieces of who you are, right? Leverage your strengths, like, use your keen perception and deep processing to excel in areas of your life, like creative pursuits and problem solving and understanding complex problems and complex systems, right? Love on your strengths and they'll love you back. Like, practice self-compassion and be kind to yourself, especially in moments when your sensitivity feels overwhelming. Because y'all, like, I want to help you embrace like this idea that yes, sensitivity, it does come with its own set of unique challenges, and those can be hard to navigate. And at the same time, if we can offer ourselves some compassion for that, like, that is what allows us to move through and process some of those feelings that come up when we are thinking of it as a weakness rather than a strength. And then another thing is to really set boundaries for yourself and for other people. Like, protect your energy by learning to say no as a complete sentence. No, thank you to situations or relationships that just tend to drain you. Be honest with yourself. Like, find your tribe, and like, that's how you find it, right? You set boundaries, and like, you're okay with telling someone no, or becoming okay and finding your voice and saying, oh, this actually like isn't a good fit. This isn't what I'm looking for. Like, that is what helps you find and build your tribe. Like, seek out other people who might be sensitive or empathic, or other people that you just get along with in all the various beautiful ways that humans get along, like, who just can understand and appreciate your sensitivity. Because part of who we are and know ourselves to be is that we are creatures of habit, and we have the ability to change based on our wants and our needs. And like, we're just evolutionary creatures. Allow yourself to be that, and offer compassion to yourself when you're struggling in those moments. So how do we deal with that disconnect between our self-perception of being awesome, amazing, magical creatures and beings to other people who just can't see that, right? Who can't see how amazingly talented that you are. So, in navigating the gap in how you see yourself and how others perceive you, it can be challenging. And so, some strategies that like I was thinking about, like what I could offer here, and some things that I came up with is I really want to help you learn to trust your inner voice. Because remember that you know yourself best. It's so easy to want to outsource our authority to other people and believe that they know best, when really you know yourself best. No one else can give you the kind of answers that you can. No one. Right? And if you're working with me, another good coach, a therapist, like, they're not necessarily going to give you the answers. They might help point out some blind spots, but ultimately they're going to give that decision-making power back to you because you're the one that knows. Right? Another aspect of this is communicating openly, like sharing, learning to own your voice and own your experience and share your experiences and your feelings with other people who you trust to help them understand your perspective. Right? I think oftentimes we can get in this headspace of just showing up and be like, yeah, everyone just needs to understand me. It's like, yeah, that would be great. But the reality is that's not super common unless you've really found your people and your tribe. And even then, you still got to interact with people outside that tribe. So learning how to own your experience and communicate openly and sharing those experiences, like, that just adds so much juiciness to life. Because it also, in order to do that, you have to practice acceptance. Right? Accept that not everyone is going to understand or appreciate your sensitivity, and that is okay. We don't like everything. We don't understand everything. And we don't need other people to do the same for us. And that's okay. It can be hard to accept and deal with, but I promise if you sit with it and allow it to be okay and not make it a problem, you'll move through it so much faster. And so as well, like, it's important to seek balance. And while it's important to value yourself, like, also remain open to constructive feedback and like personal growth and development, especially if you're getting that feedback from people that you respect and trust. One of the greatest pieces of feedback I received from one of my leaders when I was in corporate was that I didn't have to accept everyone's feedback. And like, we were a very, like, the company that I was working for, like, it was a very feedback heavy culture, which can be really great. And it can also not be really great. And so that's the thing, is learning how to discern what feedback I'm going to take versus what feedback I'm just going to be like, yep, that's on them. That's their perspective. That's their perception. And they get to have that. But I'm not going to add that into my deep processing to fixate on. Right? It's not something I'm going to fixate to fix, because it's not something that I believe needs to be fixed. They just didn't like how I showed up in the moment. That's cool. Right? So really seek balance in gathering feedback from people that you love and trust, so that you can learn how to discern, is this feedback that I'm going to take on? Or is this feedback I genuinely just don't agree with and I'm not going to spend more time on it? And then the last piece of that I can offer to just help you deal with that gap is to really challenge your assumptions. Like, don't assume that others' lack of understanding means that they don't value you. They may simply need more information or more time to appreciate your unique qualities or your unique perspective. I see this in some of my familial relationships. Like, they don't understand me, but there is something that they do love and appreciate about me. And like, oftentimes, like, they might not see it in the moment. If we're kind of like in a row, if we're having a little moment, for lack of a better word, if we're kind of like arguing and debating, but like, yeah, sometimes they're not going to value my perspective And that's okay. And it's the same with you, right? Like, not everyone, like, again, challenge the assumption that just because someone doesn't understand it doesn't mean that they don't value you. Because that's a common assumption that I see. So now I want to talk about a little bit like, why is external validation so important? Right? So our worth might not be dependent on it, but like while your intrinsic worth is not determined by others, we do need to remember that we're tribal beings. Like we are community-centered creatures, and we need that validation and support from other humans. Like, we're built that way. This is one thing that drives me absolutely crazy about the personal development community. It's like it almost focuses on hyper independence when it comes to your worth, and like that's not completely healthy either. Right? Like, this interdependence isn't a weakness. Like, it's just a fundamental aspect of human nature. We need validation from other people. And it serves important functions in order for us to function in community, function in society, right? It creates social connection. It creates positive feedback from others. And it helps us feel connected to the community. It helps give us reality checks. Like, while we shouldn't solely depend on others' opinions, right, for reality checks, because there's so much that is subjective in the world, they can still provide valuable perspective on our behaviors and our impact in what they're seeing, so that we can double check, are we aligning with how we actually want to be, right? It also provides emotional support. Validation from others provides comfort and encouragement, especially when we're struggling or having troubling times. It creates confidence boosts. Like, the external recognition, like, it can reinforce our self-belief, and it can motivate us to continue growing. And that's cool too. And then it helps aid in our skill development. Like, feedback from others helps us to improve our abilities and our interactions with other people. So like, the key, again, is to kind of seek that balance. Value external validation when it comes from those that you trust, but don't let your sense of worth solely depend on other people. Allow there to be some flexibility here. So how do we find people who see and appreciate our true selves? This is where it's like, yeah, to find our tribe and find those like amazing, fulfilling relationships, we need to be authentic. We need to learn how to express our true selves. And the more like when you're able to do that and like own who you are in every aspect, you are able to attract the people that appreciate you. Because you're not pretending. You're not changing from group to group. And like, engage in activities you love. You're most likely going to meet like-minded individuals while pursuing the things that you actually like, right? That's part of living authentically, is knowing the activities that you like and engaging in them. Like, look for that depth in conversations. People who appreciate meaningful exchanges are more likely to value your sensitivity and your depth. Join HSP communities. Like, look for online or local groups for highly sensitive people, or other groups that like the activities that you do. Like, come join my monthly community calls. We're all so different, yet we are all so similar, and it's such a beautiful thing to see people connect in those calls. Continue to practice vulnerability. Opening up about your experiences helps others understand you, but also connect with you in a different way. Like, and then also, just as you go through this process, just be patient, because building deep, meaningful connections, it does take time. It does take some effort, and trust that the right people will appreciate your uniqueness, your amazingness, the things that are you. Like, look where you can accept being different from someone while still desiring their validation. Like, it is possible to connect with others even if you don't share your level of sensitivity with the other person. All right, so to wrap all of this up, is highly sensitive people, you possess a unique and a very valuable way of experiencing the world. Like, your depth of processing, your emotional responsiveness your sensory sensitivity, like they're not flaws. They truly, truly can be gifts that contribute to your inherent worth and your lovability, not detract from it. They contribute to it. And remember, just because someone doesn't see or recognize your brilliance doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Like, your star shines brightly whether others can see it or not. And as you navigate the world, I really invite you to find a way to maintain that balance between valuing yourself and seeking connection with others. And that's going to look different for every single person. What works for me is not going to work for you. What works for you is not going to work for Susie next door. It's not going to work for your mom. It's not going to work for your BFF. Right? Experiment and take the time and love on yourself to be patient and kind and compassionate and play with what that balance could look like. Embrace your sensitivity and trust in your intrinsic worth. Allow yourself to shine because you are worthy. You are lovable. And you have so much to offer the world just as you are. As messy or as crazy or as emotional as you think you are, you still have so much goodness to offer the rest of the world. And do not give up on yourself just because the world or other people in it don't see it. The right people will see it. All right, my friends, that is all I have for you today. Remember, shining bright gives others permission to shine as well. So go shine bright. Take care. Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you want to learn how to find your voice and lean in more to the powerful force of nature that you know exists within you, head on over to coachwithcam.com and take the What Element Are You quiz. You'll discover how to align with your secret strength that you perceive as a weakness so you can break the cycle of doubt and step into your badassery. And if you enjoyed the show, make sure to follow, rate, and review it on your favorite podcast platform and share it with a friend or family member who you want to connect with on a deeper level. You'll be helping other sensitive folks like yourself and like me find and join our amazing community. So let's connect and support each other on this incredible journey.